There's a moment in life, subtle, quiet, when something inside you realizes the rules you've been living by weren't really yours. The beliefs you inherited, the thoughts you repeated, the fears you obeyed, they shaped you. But they didn't free you. And maybe that's what brought you here. Not to find motivation, not to feel better for a moment, but to finally understand the deeper structure of life, the invisible threads, the laws that shape outcomes regardless of how you feel. Because once you see them, you can't unsee them. And once you live by them, you stop chasing success and start becoming the kind of person it naturally finds. Most people drift. They repeat days, recycle thoughts, react to whatever the world throws their way. But a Stoic doesn't drift. A Stoic directs. And that direction isn't random, it's aligned with nature, with principles, with cause and effect. This philosophy isn't about controlling life. It's about cooperating with its laws so deeply, so precisely, that the chaos outside no longer shakes the calm inside. You start seeing patterns where others see coincidence, lessons where others see failure, and power where others see fate. This episode isn't about quick fixes or surface tips. It's about understanding the laws behind the mind and learning to work with them, not against them. Because once you master your inner world, the outer one begins to respond in ways you never imagined. So let's begin. Let's go to the root. Let's learn what most never do. And let's start with the first truth. There are laws behind everything. Learn to use them. Most people think life is random, that success is luck, that pain is just unfair. But if you look closely, not with emotion, but with observation, you'll start to see something deeper. Patterns, recurrence, invisible structures. Everything you experience, good or bad, follows a law, a cause, a principle, and the more you fight that truth, the more confused and powerless you feel. There is no chaos without order hiding beneath it. The wind may feel wild, but even the storm obeys the physics of motion. The ocean crashes against the shore, but it follows the pull of the moon. The same is true for your life. Your habits, your mindset, your emotions, all follow laws, not exceptions. Stoicism doesn't ask you to control everything. It asks you to study everything until you understand it. And when you understand it, you begin to cooperate with it. And when you cooperate with it, you grow. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms and to make new ones like them." In other words, nothing stands still, nothing just happens, and nothing escapes the chain of cause and effect. So the question is not, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what law is being honored here, even if I don't like the result? Take emotions, for example. They don't just appear. They're reactions, often to thoughts you've rehearsed for years. If you constantly think about what might go wrong, your body responds with anxiety. That's not misfortune. That's math. If you fill your mind with comparison and jealousy, you will feel inferior. That's not failure. It's feedback. These aren't punishments. They're signals. But most people are too busy reacting to notice them. The Stoic learns to slow down, to observe, to recognize, this pain is not senseless. It's pointing me towards something I'm resisting. Maybe it's asking you to grow, to let go, to face what you've been avoiding. Pain, confusion, and even failure, they are all loyal to their laws. If you can see through the discomfort, you'll often find the principle that created it. And when you see the principle, you gain power. not over life itself, but over your role in it. And this matters more than you think, because without an understanding of these laws, life feels like a lottery. You'll work hard and wonder why you're still stuck. You'll blame others for your patterns. You'll repeat cycles without seeing the source. You'll search for solutions without realizing that you're still playing the wrong game. For example, many people chase happiness like it's something they can earn with effort alone. But happiness follows its own laws. It's not found in having more, but in wanting less. It's not found in freedom from all struggle, but in choosing a worthy one. If your inner compass is pointed toward external approval, no amount of hard work will bring peace. Why? Because the law says external things are temporary, and anything temporary can never fully satisfy something eternal like the human spirit. That's not just Stoicism, that's reality. Or consider relationships. You can't expect deep connection when your conversations are shallow. You can't expect loyalty when your own energy is inconsistent. You can't expect others to respect you if you don't even enforce your own boundaries. The law is simple. What you tolerate, you teach, and what you repeat, you reinforce. These are not mysteries. These are rules. They're just ignored by those who prefer comfort over clarity. But here's the power. Once you start paying attention, you begin to align. You stop wasting energy pushing against what's already written into the structure of life. You stop resenting consequences and start studying them. You stop living reactively and begin building deliberately. Because you don't need to control everything, you just need to understand the system you're in. The Stoics believed in logos, a universal order, a rational structure behind all things. They didn't believe in chance as we use the word today. They believed that what looks like chaos is often just misunderstood order. And your job as a thinker, a creator, a man of principle, is to tune your mind to those laws, to stop complaining about the wind and start adjusting your sails. So study your results, trace them backward. Every failure leaves fingerprints, every success leaves clues. And behind every recurring emotion, pattern or outcome, there's a principle waiting to be understood. Life is not random. It's reactive. It reflects your alignment or lack of it. So if you want different results, stop trying harder. Start tuning in. Because the first truth of mastery is this: nothing is personal. Everything is patterned. And if you study the laws, you can stop guessing and start creating. 2. Plant it in your mind, and life will grow it for you. There's a law so simple, so underestimated, that most people ignore it completely. And yet, it shapes every relationship, every opportunity, every repeated pattern in your life. The law is this: your life becomes whatever your mind repeatedly plants. It doesn't matter how badly you want something. It doesn't matter what you post online or what you say to others. What matters is what you plant, quietly, privately, in your own thoughts. Because the universe, your relationships, your decisions, your outcomes, they all grow from that invisible root. Your mind is the soil. Your thoughts are the seeds. And life? Life is the mirror that reflects your inner garden. Think of it like this: if you plant negativity, self-doubt, envy, resentment, you won't harvest peace. You'll harvest confusion. If you constantly feed your mind thoughts of failure, thoughts of how you're not enough, how things never work out, guess what? Your actions will reflect hesitation. Your energy will repel confidence, and opportunities will pass you by, not because you're unlucky, but because your internal garden is full of weeds. Marcus Aurelius said it simply: The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. That wasn't poetic. It was practical. If you think in fear, you'll act in fear. If you think in power, you'll act with purpose. Most people don't get this. They wait for the outside to change so they can feel better. But a Stoic reverses it. He changes the internal and lets the external respond. Look at your life right now. The quality of your relationships, the consistency of your actions, the energy you carry each day. Trace it back. What thoughts have you been feeding yourself over the last month? Are you planting fear or faith? Chaos or clarity? Self-respect or self-rejection? See, most people don't plant intentionally. They let anyone walk into their mental garden and throw in seeds through news, gossip, social media, comparison. They consume passively, and when their life starts to look like a mess, they blame luck or timing or other people. But the truth is, they weren't guarding their soil. They left the gate open, and now they're shocked to see weeds growing. But here's the good news. You can replant. Every single day, every single moment, you have the power to choose different thoughts, better seeds, healthier roots, and that choice compounds. A single thought of discipline today leads to a better decision tomorrow. A single thought of gratitude rewires how you handle stress. A single thought of resilience makes you stand tall when life tries to knock you down. It starts small, but it doesn't stay small. Neuroscience confirms what Stoicism has taught for centuries. Repetition builds structure. Your brain adapts to the patterns you repeat. If you keep focusing on what's wrong, you'll find more wrong. If you focus on what's possible, you'll build the ability to take action. That's not fantasy, that's plasticity. And it means this: your mind is listening, always. Even when you're joking, even when you're just venting, even when you're being sarcastic. Your subconscious is absorbing it, and it's planting it, and eventually it'll grow. So ask yourself, what have I been feeding my mind? What thoughts do I allow to repeat without challenge? And are they creating the kind of life I want, or sabotaging it before it even begins? A Stoic isn't just mentally strong, he's mentally intentional. He treats his thoughts like a craftsman treats his tools, with care, with precision, and with discipline. He doesn't wait for motivation, he builds it by planting it. So don't underestimate a single thought. It's not just harmless, it's a seed, and it will grow, quietly, daily, and eventually, publicly. You want peace? Plant acceptance. You want strength? Plant discipline. You want clarity? Plant stillness. You want change? Plant the belief that you can change, because the law is always in motion. Your life grows toward the direction of your dominant thoughts. And if you don't like what's growing, don't curse the garden, just change the seeds. 3. Your thoughts are seeds. Your mind is the garden. Imagine walking into a quiet garden at sunrise. Some parts are vibrant, full of blooming flowers and growing trees. Other corners are overrun with weeds, tangled and unkempt. Now imagine this garden isn't just a place. It's your mind. Every flower, every thorn, every patch of soil is something you planted or something you allowed to grow. That's how real this is. Your mind isn't neutral. It's fertile. It doesn't ask whether what you're planting is good or bad. It simply grows what you give it. Every time you dwell on a thought, you're watering it. Every time you replay a belief, you're fertilizing it. And over time, these small moments of repetition grow into your default mindset, the way you interpret failure, the way you respond to criticism, the way you treat yourself when no one's watching. These are not coincidences, they are harvests. Seneca once wrote, "A man is as miserable as he thinks he is." The Stoics understood this truth deeply, that external events don't control your mind, your interpretation of them does. And that interpretation, it's not formed in the moment. It's formed by the mental soil you've been cultivating for years. Let's say, for example, someone gives you harsh feedback. A week in a garden will turn that into shame. I'm not good enough. They must think I'm a failure. But a strong mental garden turns that same moment into growth. This is fuel. Now I know what to improve. Same event, same words, but entirely different response because the soil is different. That's why two people can live through the same experience, but one becomes bitter and the other becomes wise. The mind doesn't discriminate between seeds. If you feed it anger, resentment, anxiety, it will grow thorns. If you plant discipline, focus, courage, it will grow strength. The question is never what happens to you. The question is always, what are you feeding your mind after it happens? Most people try to fix their lives by changing circumstances. They jump from job to job, from relationship to relationship, thinking, if I just get the right external conditions, then I'll be at peace. But if the mind is still full of weeds, peace will never last, because the outside only reflects what's happening inside. It's not enough to trim the branches, you have to dig up the roots, and those roots run deep. Many of the thoughts you carry today didn't start with you. They were planted years ago by parents, teachers, past failures, bad breakups, old insults, and because they've been there so long, you've mistaken them for truth. I'm not lovable. I'm not capable. People always leave. But these aren't truths. They're just unexamined weeds, and you have the power, right now, to start uprooting them. But you have to be ruthless. You can't be passive with your mind. You have to inspect your thoughts daily, like a gardener checking his soil. You have to ask, where did this belief come from? Is it helping me or holding me back? Am I watering strength or self-sabotage? A Stoic mind isn't an empty one. It's a curated one, filled with thoughts that serve the purpose of living well, acting with virtue, and staying grounded under pressure. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens by attention. So start treating your thoughts as sacred. Don't speak to yourself in ways you wouldn't speak to someone you love. Don't let fear take root without questioning it. Don't water doubt with endless repetition. Choose your thoughts like you would choose what to plant in your garden if your survival depended on it, because in a very real way, it does. Every day, you're growing something. Make sure it's something you actually want to live with, because your thoughts today are the harvest of tomorrow, and your mind will never stop growing. So the only question is, what are you planting? 4. Negativity in, negativity out. That's the harsh truth. You can't drink poison every day and expect to stay healthy. That sounds obvious when we're talking about the body, but when it comes to the mind, most people ignore it completely. They feed themselves thoughts of fear, jealousy, bitterness, doubt, and somehow still expect to experience clarity, peace, and joy. But there is no exception to this law. If you fill your mind with darkness, darkness will spill into everything you do. This is one of the harshest truths about the mind, and one of the most freeing, because once you truly grasp it, you stop waiting for life to change and start cleansing the source. Imagine this. A man spends his morning scrolling through drama, his afternoon complaining about his co-workers, his evening watching negativity on repeat. and then lies in bed wondering why he feels anxious, uninspired, or emotionally drained. But that's not mystery, that's math. That's the result of input. Your mind cannot produce something it doesn't contain. And if what you're putting in is chaotic, don't be surprised when your life reflects that chaos. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "The things that trouble you have no real existence. They exist only in your imagination." And where does imagination get its fuel? From what you feed it. Your senses are the gatekeepers of your inner world. What you watch, listen to, repeat, and dwell on, it doesn't just pass through you, it becomes you. Here's the trap most people fall into. They don't recognize negativity for what it is. They think it's harmless entertainment. They think venting every day is normal. They think surrounding themselves with people who constantly gossip or complain is just part of the culture. But negativity is like mold. It spreads quietly. It doesn't make noise. And by the time you realize it's affecting your mood, your energy, your drive, it's already rooted itself in your internal system. Let me ask you something. If your body reacted immediately to negative thoughts the way it does to bad food, if you got sick every time you indulged in envy or anger or fear, would you still consume it so freely? Probably not. But the problem is that the damage is subtle. It accumulates over time. And by the time you notice, you've forgotten what mental clarity even felt like. That's why mental discipline is a daily practice. Not just thinking positive, but protecting your mental environment with the same vigilance you'd protect your physical health. Because the mind doesn't filter things on its own. You have to be the one to say, "This doesn't belong here." You have to be the one who chooses what stays and what goes. Otherwise, negativity will move in by default. Think of it like cleaning your house. You wouldn't leave trash piling up every day just because taking out the garbage is annoying. You do it because it's necessary. The same goes for mental hygiene. You need to audit your input. You need to ask, what am I listening to every day? Who am I giving my energy to? What thoughts am I allowing to play on repeat in the background of my mind? This doesn't mean you avoid hard truths or pretend life is perfect. Stoicism is not about ignoring reality. It's about responding to it with strength and clarity, not drowning in it. You can face challenges without feeding yourself despair. You can acknowledge pain without letting it become your identity. So if you want more peace, feed your mind peace. If you want confidence, stop repeating thoughts of inadequacy. If you want direction, turn down the noise and sit with silence until your own voice becomes louder than the world's. This isn't motivational fluff. This is practical stoicism. Your outer life will always rise or fall to the level of your inner dialogue, and you are the only one who can change that dialogue. So starting today, be ruthless about what you allow in. Be mindful of what you tolerate, in others and in yourself. Because if it's negative, it's not neutral. It's either growing you or growing over you. 5. Where your attention goes, your reality grows. Every day your life is being shaped, not just by what happens to you, but by what you choose to focus on. Focus is not passive. It's not a reaction to your circumstances. It's a decision, and that decision has power. Because wherever you place your attention, you are directing the full force of your energy. That's not some abstract idea. It's the most practical truth in how reality unfolds. What you look at magnifies. What you ignore shrinks. What you feed grows. Most people think they're victims of their environment, but they're really victims of their focus. Two people can walk through the same day, encounter the same events, and come out with entirely different emotional states, simply because one was focused on gratitude, the other on frustration. One saw opportunity, the other saw only obstacles. One noticed what was working, the other obsessed over what wasn't. That's not fate, that's attention. Your brain is wired to confirm what you already believe. This is called the reticular activating system. It filters out what's irrelevant and highlights what aligns with your dominant focus. So if you walk around constantly thinking, "Nothing ever works out for me," your brain will highlight every piece of evidence that supports that and ignore anything that contradicts it. But if you start telling yourself, "I always find a way," suddenly your brain starts noticing chances, paths, connections you never saw before. It's not magic, it's selective awareness, and it works, whether you use it consciously or not. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But let's go even further. The color of your thoughts depends on where you shine your light. You can choose to focus on the mess or on the lesson. You can focus on your flaws or on your growth. You can focus on what you lost or what you still have to build with. In every moment, your attention is painting your experience of reality. Think about this. Have you ever bought a new car, or even just wanted a specific car, and suddenly started seeing it everywhere? That's attention. The car didn't appear out of nowhere. You just tuned your brain to notice it. Now, apply that to anything else. If you start focusing on peace, you'll find more of it. If you focus on discipline, you'll see opportunities to practice it. If you focus on negativity, you'll find it even when it's not really there. This is where Stoic power comes in. The world is noisy. There's chaos, temptation, distraction everywhere. But a Stoic doesn't let the world decide what deserves their attention. They choose, and that choice becomes their protection. In a storm of opinions, a Stoic locks their focus on virtue. In a whirlwind of fear, a Stoic holds their gaze on courage. Focus becomes the anchor that prevents the soul from being tossed by every wave. And it doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means curating your perception, filtering it with intention, because life is too short to give your attention to everything. If you don't prioritize where it goes, someone else will do it for you through media, marketing, fear, gossip, and you'll wonder why you feel drained, lost, anxious, while your attention has been stolen from the very things that give you clarity. So how do you reclaim it? Start by asking, what am I feeding with my focus? Is it something that empowers me or weakens me? Is this thought growing a better version of me or keeping me trapped in who I used to be? Am I focusing on what I can control or on what I can only complain about? Because whatever you fixate on becomes your lens, and over time, that lens becomes your worldview, and your worldview becomes your reality. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing what's worth your energy, what's worth staring at long enough for it to grow. So if you want more peace, focus on the peaceful. If you want strength, lock on to challenges as training, not punishment. If you want progress, fix your eyes on effort, not setbacks. Your focus is not just how you observe the world, it's how you build it. So, choose wisely. 6. You don't observe reality, you create it. Most people walk through life thinking they're simply watching it unfold, as if the world is a fixed stage and they're just the audience. But here's the truth the Stoics knew, and modern science is only beginning to articulate. You're not a spectator of reality. You are a co-creator. You don't just see the world as it is. You shape it by how you perceive it, how you interpret it, and most importantly, by what you believe is possible. That may sound abstract, but it's not. It's physics. It's philosophy. It's your daily life. Quantum experiments like the observer effect show that the very act of observation changes the outcome. And even if you strip away the science, your life reflects this every single day. You interpret a delay as failure or as preparation. You see criticism as attack or as growth. You view a setback as punishment or as a lesson. Same event, different creator. The lens changes the meaning, and meaning is everything. The Stoics knew this. They taught us that we may not control what happens, but we absolutely control how we interpret it. And that interpretation isn't passive, it's active. It creates the emotional experience we live in. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't be," he wasn't denying the pain of life. He was revealing its power. Pain happens, but suffering, that's often the result of perception, of telling ourselves the wrong story again and again until we believe it's reality. Now think about your own life. How many moments were shaped not by what happened, but by what you told yourself about what happened, the story you repeated, the label you gave it, the identity you formed because of it? This always happens to me. I'm just not the kind of person who succeeds. People like me never get that far. Those aren't facts, they're decisions, and they create a world that you then live in, and often blame, not realizing you're holding the pen. This is where the power of Stoicism becomes transformational. When you realize that your inner world doesn't just mirror the outer, it molds it. Your thoughts carry weight. Your interpretations carry energy. And every time you choose to assign meaning, you're laying bricks, brick by brick, thought by thought. You're constructing a life. It might be a prison. It might be a palace. Either way, you're building it, even if unconsciously. So the question is, are you creating with intention or default? Are you directing your mind or letting your emotions and past wounds do the designing for you? Because you don't need more control over the world. You need more clarity over your narrative. You need to stop waiting for life to change and start rewriting how you interpret what's already in front of you. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing that actually works. When you wake up, you don't experience the world directly. You experience it through filters, memory, bias, expectation, emotion. These filters are not neutral. They shape your mood, your decisions, your sense of what's possible. And unless you clean them, unless you sharpen them, they distort what's real. This is why self-awareness isn't optional. It's essential, because you're always creating reality, whether you know it or not. Every judgment, every belief, every automatic reaction, it sends out energy. And life responds to that energy. Maybe not immediately, but inevitably. So how do you use this power? You start by slowing down. You question your immediate conclusions. You stop assuming your first reaction is the truth. You ask, is there another way to see this? Is this story helping me or trapping me? You pause. You reflect. You create space. Because in that space, you regain authorship. You stop being a victim of your thoughts and start becoming the editor of your reality. You are not here to be a passive observer. You are here to shape, to influence, to grow. And you do that not by controlling outcomes, but by choosing how you meet them. That's where the real creation happens. So the next time life throws something at you, don't just ask, why is this happening? Ask instead, what am I going to make of this? Because that choice, that interpretation, that moment of creation, is what separates those who drift from those who rise. 7. Get clear on what you want, or life will decide for you. There's a quiet danger that lives in vagueness. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It just drifts, slowly, until one day you wake up in a life you didn't choose, surrounded by routines that numb you, goals that don't move you, and people who don't see you. Not because you failed, but because you never really decided. And when you don't decide, life does. Most people live like leaves in the wind. They go where the world pushes them, where others expect them to go, where fear feels more comfortable than clarity, and they call that being realistic. But the Stoic doesn't settle for the winds of chance. He chooses direction, not because he knows exactly where it will lead, but because he knows the cost of drifting is far greater than the risk of deciding. Clarity is not just some motivational phrase. It is the compass of the mind. Without it, the mind wanders. It becomes reactive, scattered, easily influenced by noise, emotion, and distraction. But with clarity, something shifts. You begin to filter. You say no to what doesn't align. You stop chasing everything and start building something. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Simple but profound. Say it first. Name it. Define it. Then act. Because if you skip that first part, if you don't define, your actions become random. And random action leads to random outcomes. Think about how most people set goals. I just want to be happy. I want success. I want more peace. But what does that actually mean? What does it look like? What does it require? How does it feel when you've achieved it? If you don't know, how can you tell if you're on the path or wasting time chasing illusions? Your mind needs direction. Without it, you fall into patterns, and patterns are not the same as progress. You wake up, scroll through your phone, rush through work, come home, distract yourself until you're tired enough to sleep, and repeat. Not because you're weak, but because you never clearly decided to break that loop. And here's the hard truth. If you don't choose your path, someone else will. Your boss will choose. Society will choose. Advertisers will choose. Your fears will choose. And before you know it, your life is a patchwork of everyone else's decisions, stitched together by your silence. So how do you break that? You get still. You ask yourself the uncomfortable questions. What do I actually want? Not what you've been told to want. Not what looks impressive. Not what makes others nod in approval. But what you want, deeply, quietly, even if no one understands it. And then you make that vision specific, not vague, not soft, sharp, measurable, clear, because clarity creates tension, and tension pulls you forward. It gives your days shape, it gives your actions meaning, and most importantly, it gives your mind boundaries. You start recognizing what belongs to your future and what doesn't. Let's say you want to become more disciplined. That's good. But what does it actually mean? Does it mean waking up at 6 a.m. every day? No excuses. Does it mean limiting distractions for 3 focused hours a day? Does it mean saying no to every social invitation that doesn't align with your goals? That kind of clarity removes debate. It turns decisions into default. You don't have to wonder if you should or shouldn't. You already chose. That's the power of pre-deciding your direction. Clarity also silences a lot of the noise. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else because your path is your own. You stop chasing what's trending because you know what you're building. And you stop feeling lost because even when progress is slow, it's still yours. Don't mistake this for perfection. You don't need to have your entire life mapped out. You just need to be precise about your next move, about your values, about what matters to you and what doesn't, about what you will tolerate and what you won't. And that requires honesty, brutal, unfiltered honesty with yourself. What are you doing right now that goes against what you claim to want? Where are you sabotaging your own clarity with distraction? Whose voice are you listening to more than your own? Because clarity isn't something you find, it's something you create, by stripping away everything that's not true. So today, carve out space, not for noise, but for reflection. Ask yourself, if nothing else mattered, no opinions, no pressure, what would I choose to build? Then write it down. Define it, speak it out loud, and act like your life depends on it. Because it does. If you don't choose, you're choosing drift. If you don't define, you're defined by others. And if you don't get clear now, you'll wake up one day wondering how your life became so blurry. 8. Repeat it, visualize it, feel it, until it feels real. Repetition, visualization, emotion. 3 simple tools, often overlooked, that shape everything you become. In a world obsessed with hacks and shortcuts, most people skip the fundamentals. They chase motivation, but ignore the process. They want results without repetition, confidence without mental rehearsal, power without presence. But the mind doesn't work like that. The mind learns by habit. It rewires itself through what you repeat. And it responds to what you feel as if it were already happening. There's no magic in repetition, but there's power. And most of that power is invisible. When you repeat something, you're not just building memory, you're shifting identity. You're telling your brain, this is who I am now. And the brain responds. Neurons fire, pathways strengthen, the unfamiliar becomes familiar. What once felt impossible starts to feel obvious. That's the quiet transformation most people miss. Because it's not dramatic, but it's everything. Now, bring in visualization, not vague daydreaming, but intentional mental rehearsal. High performers know this. Athletes, musicians, elite soldiers. They see the action before they perform it. They rehearse the motion before it ever happens. Why? Because the brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagined and real experience. If you visualize it vividly enough, your mind prepares for it as if it's already happening. But it can't just be intellectual. You have to feel it. Emotion is the glue. It locks the image in place. It turns ideas into commands. That's why a half-hearted affirmation doesn't work. That's why going through the motions won't change you. But if you repeat the vision of your future, imagine it in detail, feel the gratitude and power of already becoming it. You're creating a neural blueprint. You're rehearsing the future in advance. And no, this isn't delusion. It's discipline. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for peace. He practiced mental preparation every morning. He wrote down what to expect, what emotions to manage, what mindset to hold. That's visualization. That's intention. And it wasn't to control the world. It was to control his response to the world. You don't need to visualize winning the lottery. You need to visualize showing up on time, training when you're tired, speaking with confidence, holding your ground when you're pressured, acting with courage when fear whispers, wait. These are the real moments that shape a life, and you can rehearse them now. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're practicing something in your mind. You're repeating a story. Maybe it's empowering. Maybe it's not. I always mess this up. I'll never be consistent. No one really sees me. Repeat that enough, and it becomes your reality. Not because it's true, but because you practiced it so well. So here's the challenge. Change the script. Not once, not twice, but every day. Choose the thought that matches the person you want to become, and repeat it until your brain has no choice but to believe it. See the action. Feel it. Act as if it's already true. Because your subconscious listens more to emotion than logic. Want to become disciplined? See yourself doing the hard thing, then feel proud of it. Want to be calm under pressure? Visualize the storm, then feel the stillness in your breath. Want to lead? Picture yourself speaking with clarity, then feel the weight of your words landing. This is not fantasy. It's neurological conditioning. Here's what most people miss. It's not enough to do something once. Repetition makes it stick. Visualization makes it vivid. Emotion makes it real. Do this enough, and your behavior catches up with your belief. But don't expect immediate results. Repetition is boring. Visualization takes effort. Feeling something deeply when there's no proof, yet requires maturity. That's why most people quit. But if you stay with it, if you rehearse the mindset and embody it long enough, the external starts to catch up. And when it does, it feels almost unfair. You begin to act with confidence, not because you faked it, but because you trained it. You begin to handle pressure with calm, not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. You begin to see opportunities you once ignored, because your focus is now wired for growth. That's the real transformation. It doesn't scream, it doesn't come overnight, but it reshapes you at the core. So ask yourself, what am I repeating every day? What images am I holding in my mind? What emotions am I feeding? If you want a different life, you need different mental reps. You need a vision so clear, so consistent, so emotionally charged that your current limitations feel foreign. Because the mind doesn't care what's true. It cares what's repeated with belief. Repeat it. Visualize it. Feel it. Until the old identity breaks. Until the new one feels more real than the past you're trying to outgrow. 9. You can't rush the harvest, but you can trust it. We live in a culture that worships speed, fast results, instant gratification, overnight success. And the problem is, most of the important things in life don't work that way. Growth doesn't follow your schedule. Healing doesn't care about your deadlines. Mastery doesn't rush. And the Stoic knows this. Every harvest has its season, and you can't force what needs time to ripen. Most people plant something, a habit, a new goal, a small change, and then they stare at it, waiting for it to bloom. Days go by, maybe weeks. They don't see results, so they get frustrated. Doubt creeps in. They dig it up, replace it, try something else, again and again, never realizing that the soil was doing its job the whole time. They just didn't trust the process long enough to see it. Seneca said, "No great thing is created suddenly." He didn't say no hard thing. He said no great thing, because greatness, in thought, in character, in life, demands patience. The kind of patience that doesn't just wait quietly, but works while waiting. That's what makes it powerful. You can't rush the harvest, but you can ruin it. By constantly checking, doubting, and changing course, you interrupt the growth cycle. It's like tugging on the roots of a tree every morning to see how tall it's gotten. The best things, the strongest habits, the deepest changes, they grow beneath the surface first. Invisible, silent, but real. Look at nature. A seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. It disappears into darkness. Then, slowly, something stirs. Roots dig deep before anything breaks the surface, and only after that unseen effort does the stem rise. You don't see the work, but it's happening. And your life works the same way. You start working on yourself. You read, you journal, you eat better. You say no to things that once controlled you, and at first, nothing seems different. But stay with it. Keep watering the roots. One day, without warning, something breaks through. You handle stress better. You speak up when it matters. You show up when you don't feel like it. You don't even realize you've changed until life tests you and you respond like someone else entirely. But here's the key, that growth didn't start when it became visible. It started the day you committed, the day you chose a better standard and stuck with it, even when the results didn't show. That's what separates the powerful from the impatient. The powerful don't chase validation. They trust cause and effect. They sow with intention, and they wait with strength. This is why most people give up too soon. They confuse delay with failure. They expect results without process, and when it doesn't come fast, they start questioning the path instead of questioning their expectations. But the Stoic doesn't flinch. He knows the timeline is not up to him, only the effort is. His job is to show up, stay steady, and let nature take its course. And patience, by the way, is not passive. It's not sitting back and hoping. It's daily work, done without drama. It's choosing to keep going, even when no one claps, when no one sees, when nothing obvious is happening. That kind of patience is rare, and it's the foundation of anything worth building. You want peace? Practice patience. You want wisdom? Sit with uncertainty. You want strength? Trust your habits when motivation disappears. The harvest will come, not on your schedule, but on time, and that's a distinction most never learn. You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to align with the process that produces it. And that's the deeper lesson. Trust is not about hope. It's about harmony with nature. It's about accepting that growth has its rhythm, and you are not in charge of the clock. So if you're showing up, but the rewards aren't visible yet, keep going. If you're building something in silence, but no one notices, stay focused. If you've planted something good in your mind, a thought, a vision, a discipline, keep watering it. The results are already moving toward you, even if you can't feel them yet. Remember, faith is not believing in what you see. It's believing in what you've planted. And the Stoic's faith is in cause and effect, not in luck, not in hope, not in fantasy. He knows effort compounds, roots grow, and one day the harvest will rise, not because he forced it, but because he stayed faithful to the process. So don't rush, just keep sowing, keep showing up, keep tending the soil of your life. The harvest knows when to arrive, and when it does, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready. 10. Uproot. Every doubt. Every day. Doubt never announces itself with a loud voice. It doesn't knock at the door. It creeps in quietly, disguised as logic, masked as realism. And before you know it, it's sitting at the table, whispering questions that poison your momentum. What if this doesn't work? Who do you think you are? Is this really worth it? It never yells. It just slowly steals your belief. That's why it's so dangerous. Not because it's loud, but because it's consistent. Every day your mind is a battlefield. You wake up with intentions to grow, to focus, to become more. But doubt doesn't care about your goals. It shows up anyway, and if you don't confront it deliberately, it starts planting its own seeds. One negative thought becomes 10. One hesitation turns into a pattern. And before long, you're not just doubting the process, you're doubting yourself. The Stoics understood this enemy. They spoke about fear, hesitation, and the internal voices that weaken resolve. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Doubt isn't about the world. It's about your interpretation, your beliefs, your internal dialogue. And if you don't shape that dialogue, doubt will. That's why this point isn't poetic. It's a daily instruction. Uproot every doubt, every day. Like weeds in a garden, doubt grows by default. You don't have to invite it. You just have to neglect your mental discipline, and it will flourish. But unlike a weed, it doesn't just take space. It chokes the life out of every healthy belief. That's why vigilance isn't optional. It's survival. So how do you do it? You don't wait for confidence. You train it. You don't wait for belief to magically appear. You build it like a muscle, with repetition, with intention, with force if needed. You catch the thought early, when it's still small and manageable. The moment it says, "Maybe you're not good enough," you say, "I'm improving and that's enough." The moment it whispers, "What if they judge you?" you answer, "Let them. I'm not living for their applause." You become your own guardian, not with delusion, not with fake positivity, but with clarity, with discipline, with the constant reminder that doubt only grows when you feed it, and belief only grows when you protect it. Most people wait for doubt to disappear before they act. That's the mistake. Doubt never fully leaves. It just becomes quieter when you stop entertaining it. The Stoic acts in spite of it, not because he's fearless, but because he's trained his mind to obey reason, not emotion. So train your mind. Start your day by identifying the doubts. Write them down if you have to. Look them in the eye. Are they true? Are they useful? Do they reflect who you're trying to become or who you used to be? Most of the time they belong to your past, not your potential. Then replace them, not with fantasy, but with new declarations. I'm still becoming. I don't have to be perfect to be powerful. This is hard, and that's why it matters. Speak to yourself like someone you respect, because if you don't respect yourself, doubt will run the show. And don't expect perfection. Even the strongest minds waver. But the difference is, they catch it fast. They correct course. They return to center. That's your job, every single day. Not once a week. Not when things are going well, but especially when they're not. Because doubt loves silence. It grows in hesitation. It feeds on your quiet agreement. But when you respond with clarity, with action, with refusal, it loses its power. You don't have to shout. You just have to stand. So here's the challenge. Don't just think better thoughts. Fight for them. Don't just hope to be confident. Train confidence like a discipline. Every time you catch doubt early and cut it off, you're reshaping your mind. You're proving to yourself that you're not at the mercy of fear. You're the master of what stays in your head. And yes, some days it'll come back stronger. Some days it'll catch you off guard. That's okay. Just don't let it stay. Uproot it again and again. Every time you do, you're building mental strength that no one can see. But everyone will eventually feel in the way you carry yourself. Remember, it's not about becoming someone who never doubts. That's impossible. It's about becoming someone who never lets doubt win. 11. Whatever you send out comes right back. There's a strange kind of mirror in the world. It doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your energy, your words, your attitude. What you put out doesn't just vanish into the air. It circles back, often amplified, and returns when you least expect it. The Stoics didn't call it karma, but they understood it. They lived with an unshakable awareness that every action, every intention, every thought has consequences. You're not separate from the world. You're in constant dialogue with it. The problem is, most people think they can fake it. They say the right things but think in contradiction. They smile while hiding resentment. They pretend to be kind while secretly judging. But life isn't fooled by appearances. The universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you mean. That's why two people can do the same thing, but get different results. One is clean inside, the other is divided. And over time, life rewards one and exposes the other. Epictetus once said, "You are what you give your attention to." But let's take it one step further. You are what you radiate. The energy you send into the world becomes your identity. If you're always angry, suspicious, bitter, don't be surprised when the world reflects chaos back to you. And if you carry peace, sincerity, and quiet strength, you'll begin to notice peace returning in unexpected ways. It's not mystical, it's structural. Cause and effect. Think about your relationships. If you constantly expect betrayal, you'll act defensively. If you always assume people are out to get you, you'll read every comment, every silence, every delay as an attack. And then, because of your behavior, others pull back, get confused, or act distant, which then confirms your original belief. See? I was right. But you weren't right. You were creating it. You were sending out tension and getting tension back. The Stoic trains himself to send out what he wants to receive, not what his mood demands. It's emotional discipline at its highest level, because it's easy to be kind when you feel good. It's easy to be patient when people are treating you well. But who are you when life tests you? Who are you when someone's cold to you, or dismisses your work, or mocks your dream? That's when it matters. That's when you either break the chain or strengthen it. You're not responsible for how others behave, but you are always responsible for what you send back into the system. That's what builds your inner power. Every reaction you choose, especially when provoked, becomes part of the field you're generating. And it doesn't just stay outside, it reshapes you too. If you respond to cruelty with cruelty, you start becoming cruel. If you answer ignorance with insult, you're becoming what you hate. But if you stay rooted, calm, assertive, unshaken, then even if they don't change, you remain intact. And that's everything. This is why energy management isn't about being positive, it's about being aware. Do you know what you're putting into the world? With your tone, your gaze, your posture, your thoughts. Because the universe is always listening, not to your words, but to your essence. And if you keep planting strength, calm, and clarity, those same qualities start to show up in your external world. Not instantly, but inevitably. It's like speaking a silent language. You walk into a room, and before you say anything, people feel something. They feel what you've been carrying. You can't fake peace. You can't fake centeredness. You either live it, or you don't. And if you do, the world adjusts. So ask yourself honestly, what am I radiating today? Not what am I pretending to feel, but what am I really sending out there? Fear, desperation, resentment, or steadiness, hope, focus? Because that's what you'll get more of. Not because life is magical, but because energy compounds, attitudes echo, and the strongest signal always shapes the environment. You want better relationships? Give better energy. You want more respect? Act with integrity, even when no one's watching. You want peace? Stop transmitting internal chaos. It always starts with you. The Stoic doesn't wait for life to give him what he wants. He becomes what he seeks. And by doing that, he starts attracting it. So from this day forward, take responsibility for what you emit. Not because the world owes you something, but because you're shaping it with every word, every choice, every silent assumption. Clean your signal, strengthen your field, and trust this ancient truth. What you give, you will receive, multiplied, mirrored, and returned when you least expect it. 12. Your mind will grow. Whatever you plant, so choose powerfully. Your mind doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't pause to ask you, are you sure you want to believe this? It just grows whatever you give it, whether it's fear or faith, doubt or determination, weakness or strength. It doesn't judge the seed, it just waters it. And if you're not intentional, you'll wake up one day in a mental garden filled with thorns you never meant to plant. This is one of the most overlooked truths of life. Most people believe their thoughts are random, that their beliefs just happen. But beliefs are built. Habits of thought are installed. And like a farmer, if you don't protect the soil of your mind, weeds will take over. The Stoics were painfully aware of this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, your thoughts stain your character. They shape your identity. They don't stay in your head. They leak into your words, your posture, your actions, your life. So here's the hard truth. If you're struggling, it's not just about what's happening around you. It's about what you've been planting within you. If you're always tired, uninspired, anxious, unfocused, look deeper. What thoughts have you been watering? What beliefs have you been rehearsing? Because your external reality is often just a delayed mirror of your internal reality. The most dangerous part? Your mind doesn't care what you plant. It won't resist the bad ideas. It won't push away the toxic narratives. That's your job. You have to be the one who says, this thought is not useful. This belief is outdated. This perspective is keeping me small. And when you do that, when you stop feeding what weakens you and start planting what empowers you, everything changes. But don't expect instant results. No farmer plants a seed and demands fruit tomorrow. Growth takes time. Roots need to form before leaves appear. And this is where most people quit. They switch seeds before the harvest comes. They say, I tried to think positively. I tried to change my mindset, but nothing happened. That's like digging up a seed every morning to check if it sprouted. The mind doesn't work like that. It grows in silence. It grows with consistency. It grows when you commit to planting the right thoughts and guarding them like your life depends on it, because it does. So what should you plant? Plant responsibility, the idea that your life is not happening to you, it's responding to you. Plant courage, the kind that shows up even when fear is louder. Plant focus, not on what's missing but on what's possible. Plant self-respect, the belief that your time, energy and standards matter. And most importantly, plant patience, the understanding that deep change isn't loud, it's subtle. Like a tree growing underground, unseen for a season, then suddenly undeniable. This is where Stoicism shines. It's not about surface motivation, it's about inner engineering. It's about building a mind that can't be broken by external storms. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." If your mind is filled with scarcity, your life will reflect it. But if you fill your mind with abundance, discipline, clarity, you become rich before you earn a cent. Now, let's be honest, you'll still have bad days, days when old thoughts come back, days when weeds start to reappear. That's okay. Mental gardening is not a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. Every morning, ask yourself, what am I planting today? Is this thought making me stronger or weaker? Is this belief helping me grow or keeping me stuck? And if it's the latter, rip it out, replace it. Say something better to yourself, not just once, every day. Because repetition is how the mind learns, not volume, not intensity. Repetition. That's how you got programmed in the first place, by hearing the same messages over and over. Now you have to take control. Become the one who writes the script. Not your past, not your fears, not your critics. You. If you do this, if you take full control of your mental garden, you won't just think better, you'll live better. You'll stop reacting to life like a victim and start creating like a master. You'll stop being surprised by your circumstances and start predicting them, because you'll finally understand nothing out there can grow unless it's first planted in here. So choose powerfully every thought, every word, every quiet belief you allow to stay. You're not just thinking, you're planting, and one day you'll have to live inside whatever grows. Everything you just heard, every law, every truth, every reflection, it's not theory, it's reality. Whether you believe it or not, these forces are shaping you, responding to you, reflecting you. You don't have to agree with gravity for it to pull you down, and you don't have to believe in these laws for them to mold your life. The question is, are you conscious of them? Are you using them, or being used by them? Most people drift through life like passengers, wondering why things keep repeating, why patterns never change, why success feels random and peace feels rare. But once you see that your thoughts shape your world, once you understand that your inner climate creates your outer conditions, you can never go back to sleep. You can't unsee the power you carry. You can't pretend it's just luck anymore, because now you know your mind is the seed, your choices are the roots, your habits are the sunlight, and your reality is the harvest. You don't need to change everything today. You just need to take one step inward, watch what you think, question what you believe, plant better thoughts, starve the ones that weaken you, and most importantly, trust the process. It's not fast, it's not flashy, but it's real, and it works. The Stoics taught us not to control the world, but to control the self, and in doing so, they found something greater than control. They found alignment with truth, with nature, with reality itself. And when you live in alignment with the deep structure of life, you no longer chase success. It starts to meet you halfway. So, choose the thoughts that make you powerful, speak the words that elevate you, do the actions that make you proud, and watch what happens. Your world will begin to shift, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. Because the moment you change the root, the fruit has no choice but to follow.